What's going on, you bunch of heathens? Today we are checking out Soldier of Three Armies. It's the top liked slash commented one because people are like, oh, so now I know I like to jump around on topics, but this one it was like, oh, we're doing the Winter War era, like that kind of stuff, and so they recommended this and White Death. I saw this one commented and had a bunch of likes on it, so we're checking this one out. We'll probably check out White Death Wednesday. Yeah, should be fun. Just forewarning, I'm going to be gone more or less for the next 2-ish weeks. So I'm going to end up pre-recording a bunch of videos. Just wanted to let y'all know really quick. Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed. They're all linked below as always. Let's jump in. I don't know what it is. I love it when like rock songs like this kind of just do the, I don't know, the higher pitch, I guess, where it's like not the super deep on it. That could be a bass, I guess. I don't actually really know music all that well, in case you couldn't tell. But the they're having it at like a higher tone or whatever pitch. I really enjoy that. It especially intermixed with the heavier shit. I'm easily impressed, I guess, is what you would call it. Ooh. I like the way that started. Yeah, hell yeah! Shit sounds dope as fuck. Cross the water, a new start. War still beating in his heart. A new legend has been born. I feel like I've heard a well, I'll know later on, but I feel like I've heard of this story at least. Soldier of Three Armies. It sounds very familiar to me. I'm not sure if that's actually true or I'm just making shit up in my head. But just the title, Soldier of Three Armies, sounds very familiar. Unless I'm thinking of a similar story. That might be what it is. I might just be thinking of a similar story. More Lights Forever in song now. Oh man, this shit's my playlist. Like, I really like this one. Ooh. Hold up, before I fucking forget. That right there, you can very vaguely hear it. It sounds like glitching on an audio track.
That's what it sounds like, to me at least. And it sounds so nice. Yeah, but I can't really roll it, but yeah. Add to the playlist. This is a cool song. I like this one. What? And it has a sick fucking solo.
From the Finnish lakes into Germany and USA, all the wars he came across. Cross of Mannerheim, an iron cross, a bronze star, purple heart, one distinguished flying cross. Shout, Lauri turn his name, a soldier of three armies knows the game. It's the echo from the past. Rise from beyond your grave.
Sorry, now I gotta look this up.
May you rest in peace at last. Lauri Turni.
I really like this song. This was a really good song. Soldier of Three. I feel like Fat Electrician's done a video on him. Was it? Dude, there's some Fat Electrician videos I kind of want to catch up on. Like, he's got some, like, John Lewis Barkley. Like, there's some on here I kind of want to go back and check out again. And I kind of want to just, in my own personal time at least, I kind of want to rewatch the 77th video. That was a good video. All right, we'll hop over to the next one. I want to see if this is the same dude who he's talking of, or if I legit just am I thinking of a different person. I'm not sure, though. So, stick around. Let's jump over.
I'm Indy Nidell.
And this is Joaquin from Sabaton.
And this is Sabaton
I'm assuming
History.
filmed
Doing a
during...
special since we are on Corona lockdown. So
I was about to say,
unfortunately, we're on
I'm
Skype
assuming.
right now, but hope you'll understand.
God, Skype. How fuck... I was about to say how fucking old. Yeah,
Today's
it is kind of
episode
old.
is the
At least
first
it's
part
not
of
Zoom.
a trilogy.
And why
Oh, it's a
we're doing two
trilogy.
episodes? Because it's about Soldier of Three Armies.
Okay. I only saw 2. I'll have to make sure I get the 3rd one then.
Okay, as you can see, or probably see, I am not in Bavaria in the Time Go Studios filming this. I am in Stockholm in my apartment doing this, and my friend Ryan is helping me out doing lighting with whatever lights we have, and with his camera, and a teleprompter that I found through an app. So Ryan, say hi.
Hello.
That's Ryan. And this is Soldier of Three Armies Part 1. Right. Lauri Turni was born May 28, 1919 in Viipuri, Finland on the Karelian Isthmus. He had quite a calm childhood, but the older Lauri grew...
Wait, hold up. What do you say his name? Lauri Torni. No, it's not him. So it's not the soldier ODs on meth, becomes unkillable, that meme story. Not the Pervitin story. So I don't know then. I mean, Vietnam, homie was in everything. I swear it all sounds very fucking familiar, but I'm not positive.
Lauri Turni was born May 28, 1919 in Viipuri, Finland on the Karelian Isthmus. He had quite a calm childhood, but the older Lauri grew, the more he became aware of the troubled recent history of Viipuri and his country. In 1917, the Russian revolutions during the Great War had torn the Tsarist Russian Empire, which Finland had been a part of, apart. A civil war then exploded in Russia.
Oh, that makes...
Finland took the opportunity to...
I don't know why I didn't know that. That seems like something I would know, like... I actually don't know why I didn't really make the connection that Finland used to be part of the Russian Empire. I don't know why I never really made that connection, but I never did, so... I mean, that's cool. I'm still just stuck on myself, just not actively realizing that.
To declare its own independence. A bloody Finnish civil war followed as well, But unlike in Russia, where Lenin's Bolsheviks would eventually take control, in Finland they were defeated. Viipuri,
Yay!
well, all of Karelia,
Not a fan of
still
communism.
bore the scars of the war, and a border of watchtowers and barbed wire separated Finland from the Soviet Union. Beyond the border lay Soviet Karelia, part of the new worker.
Also, before I forget, thank you for, I'm assuming I got a few Finns on my last video telling me certain things because, like I said, I was confused about certain things. And thank you for letting me know that Indy kind of skipped over the fact, because I didn't know this, that there was a Soviet, like, controlled puppet part of the government, or separate government, that they were only going to talk to. And that's why y'all fought, which I had no idea about. And Indy kind of skipped over it, so that's why I was super confused. And knowing that now, it makes complete sense why you would fucking fight. Hell yeah, go ahead.
State. Throughout the 1920s and 1930s, the gulf between the two Karelias only grew. Lauri's father had served in the paramilitary Suojaleskunta, the right-wing civil guards, and he had a deep-rooted hatred for communism, which
Hell yeah, my kind of man.
shared. Lauri had a strong constitution, and he was a natural athlete, spending his days swimming, cross-country skiing, and boxing. But it was the tales of great warriors and soldiers that fascinated young Lauri more than anything else. He
Like
wanted
many
nothing
of these
more than
stories
to be a
talk about.
soldier, and spent his time following Viipuri's garrison around, collecting casings and cartridges, to the point that his father even described him as war crazy. As soon as he was old enough, he volunteered for the youth organization of the paramilitary Civil Guard. They taught him things like camping, marching, and marksmanship. At 17, he left the Civil Guards.
So I don't know what the Boy Scouts of America are like nowadays, but kind of like that? Or the, God, what? You have the Boy Scouts, which is like up to a certain age, then you graduate to an older sect, where it's like teenagers. I forget. I keep wanting to say Weeaboos, but I know it's not that. I want to say it starts with a W, though. But either way, back when I was in Boy Scouts, I wasn't in it for long, but I was in it for, decent time. Yeah, that's kind of what we did. We taught us camping, taught us like skills, stuff like that. And then summer camps that we would go, and we had bow. We'd learn how to shoot a bow. We had 22 shootings at camps where we practiced marksmanship with 22s. It was a fun time. I kind of miss it. That was a hell of a time.
On the wishes of his parents to go to business school, but it was pretty clear from the outset the school did not interest the stubborn young man in the slightest. Lauri saw his destiny as becoming a soldier. And in September 1938, at the age of 19, he volunteered for the Finnish army and was assigned to the 4th Jäger Infantry Battalion, which was stationed close to his hometown. The Jäger were light mobile.
I'm sorry. I stand by this. The whole Jaeger battalions, just the name Jäger is just, I don't know what it is. The name sounds so cool. I love it. Also, kind of surprised he waited till 19.
Infantry, excelling in skirmishing and ambush, moving quickly on bicycles and skis throughout the countryside. Lauri soon proved himself to be an exceptional soldier. He was highly motivated.
Wait, if he was in Vietnam, the song mentioned Green Berets. Was he an actual Green Beret? Because I think they were active during Vietnam.
And
I'm
quick thinking.
pretty sure.
He was also a typical Finn in that he did not engage in useless talk and was all business on duty. He did, however, have a fiery temper, and it got him into frequent fights. But after just a few months, he had impressed his superiors enough to be sent on an NCO training course.
Yes, active,
Lauri
very
Torni
active.
graduated
So
first in his class. While he
damn, first in his class. That does make me wonder then if it was. I mean, obviously, we're not going to get there till part 3, but
was
still,
training,
really makes me
the
wonder.
political situation in Europe, well, the world, was deteriorating rapidly. Nazi Germany had assembled a huge modern army, and after the Sudetenland crisis and the occupation of Czechia, it was obvious they were not shy about using it. That, and the reports of political terror in the Soviet Union, were, of course, a big concern for the Finns. The invasion of Poland in September 1939 by first Germany and then the USSR as well confirmed Finland's fears. Just
I'd be scared
after
too.
That,
Smart.
Joseph Stalin demanded bases and concessions from Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, who began to fall under Soviet control, and little Finland saw itself boxed in between the two giants, and it seemed only a matter of time until hostile eyes would fall on them. And soon they did. As the autumn of 19...
Hold up. This reminds me of a quote. Was it Finnish? Shoot. What was the quote from? Oh, no, it was 1912, so well before this, and Swiss. Yeah, the quote I'm looking for. The famous quip is a historical anecdote from 1912 during a Swiss military exercise. The German Kaiser Wilhelm II asked Swiss officer what their small militia of 250,000 men would do if he invaded with an army of 500,000 Germans. Swiss officers boldly replied, "Shoot twice and go home." That's the quote I was thinking of, and yeah, really good quote. I feel like the Finns, a lot of the not Norwegians. Why do I always fuck this up? Scandinavians. That's the word I'm looking for. And like that whole area kind of like encapsulates that of just, I'm not gonna let you take my fucking home.
39 rolled on. The Soviet Foreign Office made repeated demands to the Finns, urging them to give up territory in Karelia and on the Baltic coast, the Rybaki Peninsula with the nickel mines in Petsamo, and to allow Soviet troops to cross Finnish territory. Now, before anyone writes in about Stalin's actual or theoretical motivations for these demands, I cover the Winter War in its entirety, week by week in real time over on my World War II channel, including all of the weeks leading up to it and all of the political machinations. So I'm not going to discuss it here because I already do it in far more depth over there.
Go check out his other channel.
Well, the Finnish government
I like to watch it on my own
refused,
time.
as this pact of friendship would involve giving up their entire line of defense against any Soviet attack. And it would also threaten the integrity of Finland as a whole. Again, go discuss this at the other channel. So all the politicians spoke of peace, while the Finnish Defensive Council around Field Marshal Carl Gustav Mannerheim was well aware that refusing Stalin was poking the bear. It was a race against time to prepare Finland against a possible Soviet attack. Mannerheim ordered Finland's main defensive line on the isthmus from the coast to Lake Ladoga to be reinforced as strongly as possible. Soon, tens of thousands of Finns were manning and building up the fortifications, soon called the Mannerheim Line by a French journalist. The name stuck. Lauri Torni was part of a
pretty cool fucking sounding name.
strong covering force spread out between the Mannerheim Line and the border. They were to harass and delay the enemy as long as possible, scorching the earth of anything useful. The Finns had a well-trained and well-motivated army, but only a few things like anti-tank guns and artillery pieces. The only two tanks actually in their service were 32 obsolete Renault FT tanks from 1919 and a few unarmed Vickers Armstrong 6-tonners, nothing that would come even close to what the Soviets could throw at them. Aware of the disparity of force, and of course, the amount of manpower each side could raise, Soviet Red Army Command didn't concern itself with Finnish preparations and planned to simply steamroll across the isthmus in one huge offensive and into the Finnish heartland.
I said it during the last video. I'm gonna say it again here. That seems to be Russia's go-to is, oh, we'll steamroll them, don't worry about it. And from what I know, it very rarely works out for them.
November 30th.
Or Soviets, I should say, not even necessarily. Well, no, because they thought they steamroll over Ukraine too.
After a first incident on the border, the Soviet Union
know what I mean.
attacked Finland. All along the isthmus, the Soviet artillery opened up, Torni's unit was at breakfast as heavy shells began falling all around the camp. The men of Torni's unit were suddenly facing the advancing 120,000 men and 1,400 tanks of the Soviet 7th Army, and this was just a part of the Soviet attacking force. Torni and his unit made a fighting retreat. The Finns mined the streets and sniped at the enemy as they fell back. They really had the terrain advantage on their side. Along the entire border with the USSR lies some of the densest forest on Earth, and the only part of it where an enemy could attack in large force with things like tanks was pretty much on the Isthmus of Karelia. But even the Karelian terrain...
Yep, and they had to more or less stick to the roads because not only was dense forest, I'm sure he's about to go into, like the last video said, it was also a quagmire of just swampy mud.
With its own forests and marshes, offered only a few good roads for the Soviet armored columns, and that basically funneled them into killing zones. The weather was now getting worse by the day as well. It was one of those harshest winters in history that you hear about in pretty much every war that ever happened in winter, but the winter of 1939,
honestly,
1940...
I'm glad he brought that up because that always ends up fucking happening, no matter what you're doing.
It really was one of them. Temperatures soon dropped dozens of degrees below zero, and snowdrifts could be as high as 2 or 3 meters in the forests, where the Soviets, for the most part, had no
like
skis,
18-ish feet,
and where the Finns were at home. In such
20-ish feet.
The Red Army's overwhelming numbers meant little, and Torni's Jäger were able to delay their advance for a whole week before joining the main line. Defensive fighting continued all December long as the Finns tried to hold back the waves of Soviet troops. Finnish casualties were surprisingly low, as their enemy was constantly prevented from concentrating force. But as the new year began, tens of thousands of Soviet troops were starving and freezing to death in snow and ice-covered trenches. Once halted,
bad
the Soviet
logistics
column was
and
forced to try to dig into the frozen ground, waiting for supplies and reinforcements to come in. In many parts of Finland, supplies could not come in, though. And I am not exaggerating about Soviet soldiers starving to death. In their white snowsuits, the Finns were like ghosts, moving unseen through the snow-covered ridges and forests. Torni lived for the excitement of sneaking up close to a Soviet position and attacking with hand grenades and Molotov cocktails.
Unironically, that's... I don't know why I say it. I'm sure you guys will understand what I mean. That is so wrong that you're starving to death. Like, I couldn't even imagine that. Freezing to death and starving to death on a war that they just had to start and were overconfident in. Because I talked about it in my last video where this is after the purges. They have to, it's basically less qualified generals because Stalin's fucking paranoid. All that jazz. And it's, you either agree or you get replaced and taken away in the night. I mean, and fuck, the normal people get fucked over for it.
Bit by bit, such quick hit-and-run attacks with submachine guns and satchel charges...
Not really sure you understood what I meant. I kind of went off a slight tangent.
Torni soon made a name for himself as a
But you guys know I do that.
He did not shy away from danger. He embraced it. He loved the adrenaline rush and the chaos of combat. Instead of being stressed or shaken, Torni remained totally calm and focused. He soon commanded his own squad as he rose to Alikersantti, under sergeant, and led his men like wolves on the prowl, overrunning enemy trenches and dragging prisoners back to their own lines. Over the course of the winter, the Soviets suffered dearly for every inch of Finnish territory they took. But their casualties and their ammunition could be replaced. The Finns had only a small pool of manpower and resources, and no allies other than international volunteers on which to call. A peace treaty...
Yep, because like we talked about in the... I keep mentioning the last one because that's really my only big frame of reference, at least recently, that I can talk about. I mean, allies promised support. It never actually came. The only support they ever got was from volunteers, which, yeah, hats off to those guys. Those guys fucking badass. And I mean, honestly, it just, yet again, it just makes me think of Ukraine, where, I mean, Soviets, like, there's so much death during the war. Like, I gotta look it up. What's the current death toll? Because, like, no one really talks about it much anymore. 500,000 Russians dead, and Ukrainian about 100,000 to 140,000, with 15,000 civilians through the UN. Though the notes, the actual figure is much higher. And, I mean, that's, including the wounded, it's, for Russia, it's over 1.2 million. Like, and they just keep pushing. They refuse to end it, and it's just continuously going. I mean, 4 years now. It is just continuously moving. I mean, February, late, I mean, technically late February with Crimea, but I mean, it is just so very, like, crazy to think about. And I always forget that. I forgot North Korea also sent in some of their fucking troops. Like, that is insane behavior.
Between Finland and the Soviet Union was
I
signed
don't know why I
March
went
12,
off on that
1940.
tangent.
Soviet Foreign Minister of
Oh, yeah, it just seems like Russia always is just always able to put more men out no matter what. They will just send more men.
Vyacheslav Molotov,
More or less why
the
I
guy
brought it up.
Molotov cocktails are named after, read out the peace terms. The Soviets will move the Finnish border and take the whole Karelian Isthmus, including Viipuri. This region was home to 12% of the Finnish population. The Soviets will
Not an
lease
insignificant
Hanko
amount.
Peninsula, take the Rybaki Peninsula, a bunch of islands off the coast, and some land near Salla. This is all roughly 25,000 square miles of land, but perhaps more importantly, every naturally occurring defensive line Finland has. Finns in the ceded land had 2 weeks in which to evacuate. They could choose to remain in their homes and become part of the Soviet Union.
Who wants to
Not a
do that
single one
shit?
did. True story. Well,
Yep, y'all were telling me that in the comments as well, that they were offered the choice and no one wanted to fucking stay. I don't blame them. Why the fuck would you want to stay in the Soviet Union?
over 400,000 Finns were rendered homeless, and Torni's family was among the long trail of refugees that made their way across the new border.
Oh,
Torni, however,
okay,
had not
makes sense.
fought his last battles. He was sent to officer school, graduating as second lieutenant. The world, however, was descending further and further into war. Torni had not seen the end of it by a long shot. Remember, he was a soldier of 3 armies, and the Finnish army was just one of them.
Now, another thing different about today is you have brought something with you. You have a book with you.
Yes, I did bring a book.
Born a Soldier, The Times and Life of Larry Thorne, J. Michael Cleverly. Now, they might not know who Larry Thorne is because it's not.
Sorry, I had to restart my computer, so we're going to jump right back in.
Writing the song in a way.
Yeah.
And especially also, it's a cool thing that, you know, we always kept asking our fans to send us emails or books for that matter. And if you do give us books, please make sure they're in sort of English, Swedish, Danish, or Norwegian that we could understand. But
Makes
this song
sense.
was actually given to me by a guy
Pretty
called
standard, makes
Petri,
sense.
And he's been around for a while. I think I met him, I guess it's almost 10 years ago now.
I'm gonna be honest. That's actually super cool and like kind of sweet that he actively remembers the dude's name. Just Oh yeah, no, this was given to me by a dude named Petrie. He's been around a while. I met him like 10 years ago now. That's unironically kind of sweet.
Yeah.
Finnish guy, we met in a sauna on a boat between
Of
Sweden
course
and
you did.
Finland.
Okay. Oh, was it on one of the rock boats, or like a music boat?
Yes, I think
Aha.
so, actually.
Oh, that's cool.
And no, it's really, over the years, he kept, nagging me. You should make a song about Lauri Alanto. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And of course, we've been, in the sauna drinking or whatever.
Yeah.
I love the fact that he says, like, over the years, like, nah, I know this dude. I've met him a bunch, like, whatnot. He keeps bugging me. You should make a song about him.
And I forget because I'm senile, okay? So after a few years, he gave me this book.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Don't worry. Don't worry,
Well,
Joaquin.
a couple
I'm
of
the
things
fucking
hit me
same.
about that. No, 3 things, 3 points. Okay, one, you said if they give you books, they should be in English or Swedish or a language that you understand. Let's say, for example, that there was like a book about smoking snakes that somebody really wanted you to read, but it was only in Portuguese. Couldn't some Brazilian guy just stand next to you for a few days and just read it out loud, translating, going, and then, come on, that'd be okay, right? Yeah. Or since you obviously encourage people to send you books and things for ideas for other songs, why don't, because you're on lockdown, why don't we just print like your home address on the screen, right? And then people can send things by DHL or Federal Express, and then you'll have lots of great books to read while you're
put my home address on the internet. That's
of course.
Brilliant.
I mean, what could possibly nothing? I mean, worst case scenario, you get some books. Absolute worst case scenario. Nothing else could possibly happen. No, I did have another point.
No, I swear, nothing bad else would happen.
You mentioned you met him on one of those music boats, and I think what maybe a lot of people around the world don't know is that for the quarter of a century that I've lived in Sweden, and I'm sure back before, there's always been rock boats on the Baltic. There's always boats several times a year. It used to be once a week on Wednesdays. I saw Fireside, the first show I saw on a boat, in like the little teen disco on a Wednesday night Viking line. But the rock the boat things are great.
Yeah, so many good bands I've seen on those. I mean, I saw.
Dude, that sounds fun as fuck.
Tony Martin performed there,
Yeah.
and lots of good stuff.
Yeah, no, that
sounds like it'd be fun as fuck to go do.
I hope that other areas of the world have like rock ferries and things like that, but I fear that they don't.
Well, there's 70,000 tons of metal. They're starting in America now with these cruises.
Okay, cool.
I mean, I haven't heard of them.
I mean, I think the first one was in 2011, so they're pretty late to the party.
Pretty late to the party. Okay, well.
Yeah, but that seems like such a... Honestly, I live on the Mississippi. That seems like such a Mississippi thing to... Or like a small town thing to do of... Especially on the Mississippi. I say Mississippi as in the Mississippi River. Seems like such a thing that they would do. Towns on the river is just, we're going to give like river boats, put them on the river, and just have like local bands and whatnot come and play on them. And you can just go out there, hop on, drink a bit, listen to live music, and then we'll go back into fucking town. Like, that sounds like it'd be such a Midwest thing to do.
Parties, I think episode 1 about Lauri Torni, the Soldier of Three Armies, is just about done for today, because we have a bunch of other stuff we want to talk about him, and they can get to that in parts 2 and part 3. So I will say
we're going to be hopping straight into it. It's going to be a longer video.
Sabaton History.
All right, hopping straight to part 2.
This is the second part of a We're Doing It Over Skype because we're in quarantine because of Corona trilogy.
And the song is Soldier of Three Armies.
This is part 2 of Soldier of Three Armies. Now, as you can see, I am not in Germany at the studio because of Corona. I am at my home in Stockholm in my living room. My friend Ryan is filming me. Say hi, Ryan.
Hello.
Hi.
Lighting is whatever lights we have lying around.
Made
Here
the
we
joke
go.
again.
The Winter War between Finland and the...
What was I going to say? Oh, I didn't know their studio was in Germany. That's cool.
Soviet
That's
Union
cool, no?
came to its end in March 1940. It had ended with the Finns successfully preserving their independence, but they still found themselves between a rock and a hard place. Many Finns found it hard, if not impossible, to believe that Joseph Stalin would keep his word, and that this was closer to a temporary ceasefire.
Sorry, I
than a
thought I heard
lasting
talking in the
peace.
background.
In the West, the German war machine was on the move, taking Denmark and Norway, Sweden had kept its neutrality, but had to allow German troops transit rights through its territory. How long could Finland remain independent? In
that's
January
scary.
1941, Finnish Army Chief of Staff Erich Heinrichs visited Germany to get a clear answer. German High Command assured him that an invasion of Finland was not in their interest, but Adolf Hitler did have a role for Finland to play in a new endeavor, the invasion of the Soviet Union. Thinking that they barely had a choice, they agreed to assist the German war effort, but only under certain conditions. Finland was to be a co-belligerent, not an actual ally. It would not join the Tripartite Pact, seeing war against the Soviets as separate from World War II, and would only open hostilities to achieve Finnish interests and revenge. For the moment, this was good enough for Hitler. Lauri Torni had remained in the Finnish army after the Winter War. Word came that this new cooperation offered Finnish veterans the opportunity to train and serve in the German military. See, to many, that was reminiscent of the Great War, when Finnish volunteers had trained in the Imperial German Army, which later founded the Finnish Jäger movement. Those Jägers had served as the backbone of the victorious whites in the Finnish Civil War. Many of those veterans were now part of the higher officer corps and organized the transfer of young volunteers to do the same thing. German High Command, however, insisted that the Finns not be trained by the regular German army, but by the Waffen-SS. The Waffen-SS had evolved as the militarized arm of the regular SS, the notorious instrument of Nazi power. The Nazis saw the Waffen-SS as not only the most elite military force, but also as the bearer of Germanic and Nordic culture in concert with National Socialist ideology. So it welcomed...
I was going to say, like, not only were they just trained better than normal troops, the Germans would also see them as helping, honestly, probably helping spread their ideology to another country through the military, even, like, what's the word I would go for? I don't know. Passively, I guess, maybe?
Men from the Nordic countries.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of what I would call it.
Now a first officer, was among the 1,400 volunteers that made their way to Germany. What motivated Torni was not Nazi ideology or the prospect of fighting for Germany. He was a soldier, not a politician nor an idealist. He hated communism, he hated the Soviets who had invaded his homeland and even taken his family home, but there's no evidence that he endorsed fascism of any kind.
Yeah.
It was for him an opportunity to train alongside what many saw as the elite of Europe, a cadre
Makes sense. I don't fucking agree with you. I'm literally just here for the training because fuck the Soviets.
full of highly motivated and determined young men, equipped with the best weapons and trained by the best commanders. Or so he thought. He reached Germany in mid-June 1941 and was then sent to Vienna. Now wearing the death's head and the black uniform of an Untersturmführer, he began a brutal training regimen that honed his skills as a light infantry leader. But when Germany invaded the Soviet Union and Finland reopened the Northern Front against the Soviets, Torni wanted to join the fight, not for Germany, but for Finland.
Again, makes sense. He's literally only there to fight the Soviets, and if my homeland's fighting it, I want to go fight for my homeland. Let me guess, he was denied. That's my bet. Fuck, what was I gonna say? I am brain farting all day today.
After 7 weeks of harsh training, his contingent was sent back to the Baltic coast to await its deployment on the Eastern Front. Now here, the stories differ. One source says that Torni was designated too problematic and sent back to Finland. Another says he smuggled himself on board a ship. Either way, by late July, Lauri Torni found himself back in Finland and immediately headed for Karelia. The Finnish army was advancing deep into Soviet Karelia, taking back the territory Finland had lost in the Winter War. Torni now joined up with the 8th Light Infantry of the 1st Division. He made good use of his Waffen-SS training and was even assigned to lead a unit of captured Soviet tanks.
Oh, so he actually... That's cool. He was actually able to go back and actually fight. Whether it was, I mean, the two differing opinions, whether he smuggled himself and just went AWOL from the German side, or was actually just sent home because the Germans didn't want him.
Soon he
That's
was
cool.
seen
Good for
driving
him.
far ahead, throwing grenades into the Soviet lines. The first 6 months of the continuation war, as it would be called, went well for the Finns. Viipuri, Torni's hometown, was liberated and his family returned to their old home. By then, the Finnish army had pushed far into Soviet territory. Many hailed them as liberators from the communist yoke, but, you know, there was also the realization that they were the aggressors now. The Germans urged them on further to close the siege of Leningrad, but Finnish Commander-in-Chief Mannerheim refused. They had advanced enough and would instead create a new defensive line. In December 1941,
Ooh, that's gonna be a big, what would you call it? Sore point for the Germans, I guess, or a big clash, I guess. I don't know exactly what you call it, but yeah, wanting to push them on, continue the fight against the Russians, push into Russia, and the Finns are just, no, we got the shit we wanted. We're gonna just set up a fucking defensive line now. We're not gonna be full-on aggressors. Ooh, I bet the Germans didn't like that, huh?
2 years after fighting the Winter War, Torni once again led infiltration and reconnaissance missions deep into the enemy lines. Crossing frozen lakes and skiing through the snowy countryside, they bypassed Soviet outposts, trying to locate their supply depots instead. Torni led a team of highly skilled veterans, demolitionists, sharpshooters, hand-to-hand combat specialists. His men proudly sewed an orange T on their uniforms, identifying themselves as part of Detachment Torni. Torni himself was becoming a living legend. He was already widely respected as an unconventional but highly capable leader, and stories abounded, like how he once stumbled across a position of Soviet soldiers and killed all 30 of them with only his Suomi submachine gun. The gun, it was said.
That... I get it. These guys probably know more about what they're doing than I do, more than likely, but putting your hand over the barrel of what is more than likely a loaded firearm is just... Oh, that just gives me the ick and just makes me cringe back.
As its wielder. But even the enemy knew his name. Soviet propaganda frequently broadcast that they wanted Lauri Torni dead or alive. The bounty on his head was soon raised to 3 million Finnish marks.
Started out as a reserve, soon promoted well deserved, and the legend has begun.
He is very, you Finns really have a way with the Soviets of having heroes piss them off and like putting marks on their head. I love it.
With the bounty on his head, the Red Army wants him dead. Soviets enemy #1.
By March 1944, though, it had become pretty clear that the German army was facing collapse on the Eastern Front, and even the siege of Leningrad had been lifted. It was only a matter of time, and Finland needed a way out. For months, Finnish politicians tried to get Stalin to agree to a new peace treaty, but no dice. Now the Soviets were becoming more aggressive. The more ground the Germans lost, the more the pressure on the Finnish front increased. Then in June, Finland once more saw itself against overwhelming odds as a huge Soviet offensive began to knock the Finns out of the war. Over 10,000 pieces of Soviet artillery opened up on Finnish positions all over the Karelian Isthmus. Torni was, as always, in the thick of fighting. Moving from division to division, his unit served as a fire brigade, counterattacking the Soviets wherever they broke through.
Yeah, he was a QRF.
Despite irreplaceable casualties, the Finns held once more. However, this was
seemed
not
to be good
sustainable.
at that.
But after Finnish chief diplomat in Moscow, Juho Paasikivi, openly warned that we will shoot from behind every stone and tree. We will go on shooting for 50 years. We are not Czechs. We are not Dutchmen. We will fight tooth and nail behind every rock and over the ice of every lake. The Soviets were finally willing to speak of peace, on condition that Finland would not only immediately break any relations with Germany and extradite all German personnel from Finland at once, the other conditions for peace were about as harsh as the terms after the Winter War, which we saw in Part 1. But unconditional surrender was avoided. On September 7th,
What were the
treaty was
terms?
signed. Finland once more retained its independence. In the middle of all this, Lauri Torni had learned that he was to be
I get this is about him, but I want to learn more about it. What were the actual
honored
terms?
as a Knight of the Mannerheim Cross for his natural and resourceful leadership during the war. This was Finland's highest military
what
honor
were
for
the
valor and gallantry.
terms?
Hitler, of course, took Finland's separate peace with scorn and ordered the German soldiers retreating through Lapland towards Norway to scorch the earth behind them. But this was
fucking
not
sore
the
loser.
end of cooperation between Finland and Germany. The Gestapo, the German secret police, was already starting a new operation called Sonderkommando Nord. This was to assist...
Okay, let's see. Oh, the Lapland War, between which he's just now talking about, I believe, where he just talked about. Soviets demanded 600 million in war indemnities, was reduced to 300 million, about 6.9 billion in 2025, due to pressure from the US and UK. Insisted payments be based on 1938 prices, which double the de facto amount. Okay. Was finalized in 47. Likewise, Helsinki, along with Moscow, was the only capital of the war. I can't really find what it is. So 260,000 returned back to Karelia afterwards, and then more things gave Karelia back to them. Only 19 chose to remain. Votes in Ishorias, Finnic indigenous people and ethnic group. Okay. German-occupied Ingria had been evacuated to Finland in 43 and 44. After the armistice, Finland was forced to return the evacuees. Soviet authorities did not allow the 55,000 returnees to resettle in Ingria and deport the Ingram Finns to... Oh, wow. I still don't know exactly what the terms were for the ending. And I gotta stop pausing. This is gonna be a long-ass video.
Finland was to be prepared for guerrilla operations against any Soviet takeover. And while many Finns distrusted the peace, communist influence was growing rapidly in Finland, and Soviet agents and spies were everywhere. It seemed like only a matter of time until Finland would need its soldiers once again. Although Nazi Germany was on the verge of collapse, the Gestapo offered to train Finnish veterans for secret operations. Torni, always restless, agreed, and by the beginning of January 1945, boarded a German submarine that would take him to the secret training camp. From January to March, Finnish SS and German Gestapo officers taught the volunteers secret communications techniques, coding and encryption, and advanced sabotage and demolition techniques. Training, though, was interrupted by the rapid Soviet advance and was relocated to the Danish border. Torni stayed there till April, and then here again, the stories differ. One story goes that to escape the Soviets, he made contact with one of Felix Steiner's detachments that were unable to break through to Berlin and instead surrendered to the British. Later, he escaped imprisonment and made his way back to Finland. Another story goes that he grew disillusioned with the Germans and felt deceived. He then escaped the training camp and with false papers made his way through Denmark and Sweden to Finland. Again, either way, by late 1945, Torni was once again back in...
It's hard to determine which one I think is more... well, to be fair, it's like it with the last one. I don't know which one would be more true. Sounds more true. I mean, being captured, escaping, and then escaping back to Finland, or escaping the Germans. I don't know. I really don't know. That's
back in civilian life. The warrior came home for now. But his story does not end here, for he was a soldier of 3 armies, and this was but the second.
we still got part 3.
Now, this episode is a little more, I'm not going to say serious, because since all of your songs are military history, they all obviously cover serious topics of life and death. But it's a little darker, and I know it's a little more controversial because of the specific subject matter of who Lauri was fighting with. But before we talk about this, you said you've actually been to his grave, right?
Yes, I've been to Arlington. Is it once or twice?
Oh, he's
actually. Well, yeah.
Oh, he's buried in Arlington? Damn. And yes, of course it's going to be a bit more controversial. I mean, he fought with the fucking Germans. No avoiding that. At the same time, there's no actual historical evidence that proves whether or not he actually agreed with it. It was more, for all we know, it could be a shade of fucking gray where he legit only fought with them and whatnot because they happened to be fighting the fucking Soviets. I mean, makes sense.
Had to go and, search in the computer to find his lot number, and man, there's a lot of graves, a lot of dead soldiers there.
Yeah. I've never actually been. You'd think it as a historian and a military historian, that'd be a place that'd be big on my bucket list, but I never.
And an American.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Now, question. Now,
that is one place I want to visit.
They might not know because we haven't mentioned it. It's going to be mentioned in part 3. Later in life, after the things that happened in this episode, Lauri Torni changes his name to Larry Thorne, right?
Yep.
And of course he's buried in Arlington because he did some service with America. It's not too much of a spoiler to say that he did stuff with the Americans. Does his grave say Lauri Allen Torni, or is it just Larry Thorne, or what is it?
Larry Thorne. Maybe there was something, I can't remember now, but maybe we got a clip of that.
Okay.
Somewhere.
Yeah, let's see it.
Yeah, let's see it. Larry Allen Thorne. No, Larry Allen Thorne. He really embraced his new name.
Larry Allen Thorne.
I knew Arlington was big. But fuck, this really puts in perspective, how, it just look at this. It goes on, so fucking far. God damn.
So is that something you or the whole band or some of the band does a lot? I know you visit military sites, but particularly memorials and graveyards and stuff?
Yes and no. I mean, we did a whole lot in Verdun, actually.
Personally, I would try to, at least.
See these places. It's a matter of respect,
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
If it's people we sung about.
Yeah.
But also, at the same time, I don't really want to do it on a show day. It's a bit of a party pooper. If you know what I mean.
Makes sense as
but
well.
Arlington seemed, I would recommend anyone who is in the DC area to go there. I wouldn't say travel from halfway around the world to see Arlington, but if you're in the area, I'd say it's one of the bucket list things to do. Artie Murphy there, you got JFK, and I mean, thousands upon thousands of graves. And the grave of the unknown soldier, which is still being watched, even though of the coronavirus. I saw actually on the news.
And which is interesting is we did the
refuses to be unguarded.
The Diary of an Unknown Soldier 2 weeks ago. That episode came out, so it's pretty recent for us. So anybody out there that didn't see it, it's a pretty good episode about how the whole concept of memorializing the unknown soldier as an everyman came out. But hey, interesting.
I like it.
You say you don't want to do it, when you're on tour and when it's a show day. If you have let's say you have a a tour from March 1st to March 31st through South America. How many free days would you have in a 31-day? I mean, is it like only 4 or 5, or is it like 12 or 13?
That would depend. If we were on a tour bus on a month, we would do about 22, 23, 25 shows maybe, usually.
Okay.
We do average about 5 shows per week. If we're going to do Russia or South America, it's a lot of fly shows. So, and that means the days off are also travel days. And sometimes when you travel in between, you have to connect in some main airport hubs. So there will be a bit fewer. I think 1 month in South America, we're talking 18 to 20.
Okay, well that's cool. So
More than I thought.
10 days looking at war memorials.
Yeah.
More than I thought.
Everybody ideas, that's me making them always think. That's my job in life. But hey, back to something else I wanted to ask you about. A lot of people view it as controversial that Finland fought the continuation war, not as an ally of Nazi Germany, but as a co-belligerent. Some don't, some do. It makes perfect sense to me. I mean,
it makes sense to me.
Finland. Germany was actually the only European country that had treated Finland decently in any way during the Winter War. France and England were real jerks. If you go to my World War II channel and follow the Winter War, you'll see that the people that were supposed to be supporting them failed to support them.
Yeah,
but I understand also because it is Nazi Germany, it is Adolf Hitler's Germany, and people say, how can you ally yourself to such monsters? Although it wasn't entirely apparent until after the invasion of the Soviet Union what monsters they actually were. But what do you say about that?
Well,
honestly, good question.
In a sense, it doesn't really matter because we're storytellers, not commentators on these things. We're not doing this to spread any propaganda to say what's right or wrong. We want to tell the most interesting stories from the point of view we find the most interesting. And in this case, I would have to say Lauri Torni really qualifies because, what he did in his life as a soldier really qualifies him to be,
especially the stuff this week, the stuff that we heard about today. We're like going to Germany and getting trained and not being in the, the Germans not having them trained by the army, but by the Waffen SS. And it gets weird, I think weird. This episode is definitely going to inspire people to dig around and dig a little deeper into it. Let's save the rest.
Honestly, that's some of the best shit that you can do.
Lauri Torni or Larry Thorne until part 3 of, what's the name of this song?
Soldier of Three Armies.
See you next time.
Yep, we're jumping straight into it. We're jumping straight in.
Today on Sabaton History.
Part 3 of Soldier of Three Armies.
Yeah.
This is how long is this video?
In case you didn't see part 1 or 2, we are recording this
18-ish minutes.
Because of the Corona thing going on. And that's why we're here right now.
This is going to be over an hour long of a video.
As soon as we possibly
a long
can.
one.
And for now, enjoy part 3 of the saga of the Soldier of Three Armies.
This is part 3 of Soldier of Three Armies. Now, this is episode, like parts 1 and 2, I am not filming at our studio in Bavaria. I'm filming in my home, in my living room in Stockholm, Sweden. And my friend Ryan is doing the camera. Say hi, Ryan.
Hi, Ryan. Hi, Ryan.
It's still funny. And our lighting is basically whatever lights we have from around my apartment. Okay, down to business. By the beginning of 1946, the world, on the surface, seemed to be finally at peace. But in reality, it was no safer place than before. The Second World War was over, sure, but the fragile alliance between the United States and the Soviet Union had fallen apart. Now an iron curtain descended over Europe and soon separated the whole world into opposing ideological camps. Although Finland had once again preserved its independence, as we saw in parts 1 and 2, the Soviet Union was slowly clenching Finland tighter and tighter in its grip. The Finnish Communist Party, now heavily funded from the USSR, was growing in strength, and Soviet agents operated freely throughout Finland. Lauri Torni was now 27 years old, a well-known and well-respected war hero from 2 wars. But that put him in the sights of the Valpo, the Finnish political secret police. the Valpo was by now firmly under communist control. There had been several roundups targeting decorated veterans, high officers, and politicians. They found themselves under investigation for war crimes on orders from Moscow. 1,500 Finns were found guilty in show trials. In April, the Valpo arrested Lauri Torni. His cooperation with the German secret police was the only thing the Valpo could actually pin on him, but they accused him of planning to overthrow the Finnish government. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison for treason. It was not until December 1948 that Finland's now president Juho Paasikivi finally had the power to call off the witch hunts and pardon those who had suffered under them. Lauri Torni was a free man, but the country for which he had risked his life so many times had no place for him anymore. He was an ex-SS man, an ex-resistance fighter, and now also an ex-convict. Many of his old comrades had escaped the Valpo by fleeing to Sweden and from there across the world towards South America or the United States. Soon, there were little Finnish communities abroad that helped other Finns escape. In the first half of 1949, Torni wrangled with the decision to leave. Finally, he packed his bags, took a friend's passport, and made for the Swedish border. There, he forced a taxi driver at gunpoint to drive over the border, and then Lauri Torni made a straight line for the Swedish immigration office. Once in Stockholm, he kept a low profile, and he even fell in love with a woman named Maria Palm. They were soon engaged and even planned their marriage. Maria actually traveled to Finland to get Torni's uniform and medals for the wedding ceremony. But
damn, that's a hell of a woman.
Could not offer Maria a future, not in Sweden, where Soviet agents were still on his heels. He decided that he would make his way to the US, but his borrowed passport would not allow him entry there. So he headed for Venezuela first. In March 1950, Torni boarded a ship to Caracas, leaving behind the love of his life. In Venezuela, Torni met one of his old Winter War commanders, who got him aboard a ship bound for the US. Off the coast of Alabama, Torni jumped into the sea and swam to the shore. Now he was in the US. Illegally, sure, but at least he was there. With barely enough English to make himself understood, he made his way to New York, where the Finnish-American community helped him with the immigration services. However, this was 1951, and Cold War America, starring Senator Joe McCarthy. The fear of communist spy rings and double agents in all walks of life was a hallmark of an age of deep paranoia. Once more, Torni's past caught up with him. In July 1951, the FBI arrested and interrogated Lauri Torni about his service in the Winter War, about the SS, about his prison sentence. Deportation seemed imminent, but at the last moment, a bill associated with the Lodge Act was pushed through Congress, allowing Torni and other persecuted foreign veterans to apply for citizenship through service in the U.S. Army. Lauri Torni filled out his declaration of intent and was sworn into the American Army. Since most Americans had problems handling the name Lauri Torni, and as a way to make a fresh start, Lauri Torni became Larry Thorne. Now, the U.S. Army was specifically interested in Winter War veterans, and the reason for that is that they were experimenting with a new branch of service, the Special Forces. It was expected that if the Cold War with the Soviet Union...
I kind of got to look this up now. Now I want to know what ends up happening to his wife.
Got hot. Large parts of Europe would be overrun by the Soviet Red Army. So battles would be fought behind the enemy's lines through espionage, reconnaissance, and sabotage. For that, they needed veterans who already had experience with such methods.
Cross the water, a new start. Water still beating in his heart. A new legend has been born. Started out as a wrestler, soon promoted well this changed his name to Larry Thorne.
By 1954, Larry Thorne was now 35, nearly twice the age of most other recruits, but he was still in excellent shape. The hardest thing in boot camp was actually learning the English language. After cold weather and mountain climbing training in Colorado, he was then sent to airborne school. By September, Thorne had passed all required tests and was accepted into the Special Forces at Fort Bragg. It was the beginning of the elite units known as the Green Berets, which we all know of, but whose mere existence then was still kept a secret.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward to 1963, and post-colonial...
Well, I mean, you could say the same thing. I know, or at least pretty sure, like when it comes to like, look at the, what would you call them? Why am I blanking? Delta Force. Like Delta Force nowadays, they are technically, from what I think anyway, even they aren't officially recognized. Like, it's kind of like generalized knowledge that Delta Force is a thing, but I don't think they're called Delta Force anymore. And also, I don't think it's like actually like acknowledged by the government that they exist. Technically,
Vietnam
I think.
was fought over between the communist North and the American-supported South. North Vietnamese guerrilla fighters infiltrated the South, attacking both South Vietnamese and American forces. They transported their men and material along their major supply route, known as the Ho Chi Minh Trail. However, most of the trail was hidden from the air, covered by thick canopies of jungle trees. For someone to destroy the trail, they'd need boots on the ground. Larry Thorne would be part of a specially schooled operational detachment known as an A-Team. Yeah, I know.
Oh.
I know. To fight the insurgency. This was what he had trained.
Oh, he did cool guy shit, huh? Like
and
real
lived
cool guy
for.
shit.
Didn't matter if it was subarctic Karelia or the tropical jungles of Vietnam. His first assignment...
Also, I wonder if he, considering he's talking about the Ho Chi Minh Trail in general, he must have been part of some of the teams that implemented the booby-trapped ammo. Or at least I would assume so.
Brought him to a camp near the Cambodian border called Chao Lang, and it was straight out of Apocalypse Now. Far away from the eyes of public or high command, Chao Lang was a lawless area. The camp had been attacked and nearly overrun 11 times in just the past month alone. As Thorne looked around the camp, he spotted a North Vietnamese flag on a hill nearby and made it his first mission to tear it down, to make it clear that there was a new sheriff in town. Officially, they were to respect the Cambodian border. But in reality, this was bandit country full of guerrilla fighters.
Yeah, officially
Thorne
doesn't...
immediately reorganized the system and ordered an aggressive stance against the enemy. His mantra, that a good defense was a strong offense, meant that he would attack the enemy wherever he showed himself. Similar to the winters in Karelia, the terrain dictated the battle in Vietnam. Brute force meant little inside the jungle. And once more, Thorne's daring and unconventional thinking showed results. He ambushed the ambushers and booby-trapped their supply routes. After his 180-day-long first tour in Vietnam had ended, he and everyone else in his team received the Purple Heart for wounds taken in battle, but they came back alive.
Hell
Thorne
yeah.
was also awarded the Bronze Star for valor. This would not be Thorne's only tour, though. American High Command wanted to deal the Ho Chi Minh Trail a crippling blow. This time, they planned on using small reconnaissance teams to infiltrate Laos, to locate Viet Cong supply depots, mark them for airstrikes. But since operations in Laos were political dynamite, they needed the best of the best. Larry Thorne was top of...
And if you were caught, you were disavowed. You were not part of you were not American. You were not part of the American military. You were not... No, you were a unnamed man.
Their list. On October 18th, 1965, 3 King B Special Forces helicopters made their way towards the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Larry Thorne was now 46 years old, and this time
he's an old timer in the
to make sure that the insertion would go as planned. The 3 helicopters moved
in this
forward,
like era,
flying low above
or in this
the treetops.
profession.
But as they approached the landing zone, the weather went bad. Rain clouds hung like steamy curtains over the surrounding mountain ridges. Thorne was about to call it all off, but then the weather cleared for a moment and the men were dropped into the zone. Thorne's helicopter circled high above them. He chose to remain in place until the team leader gave the radio signal, but by then, the weather had turned again. A storm was approaching.
Oh, not
the
good.
King Bee was an old model with outdated instruments. At first, they were headed north. Another helicopter trying to follow their radio frequency noticed that they suddenly made a 180-degree turn. Then they were gone. The King...
Oh no. And also, King Bee, I wonder, because I know that's something they did a lot during Vietnam. What were they called? Is it... No, not Seabees. Yeah, MacV Sog, King Bees. Da, 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 da. I'm trying to remember what they were called. Because they had a lot of the time the helicopters, like those helicopters at least,
Bee had vanished.
Were flown by South Vietnamese pilots
soon after.
a lot of the time, if I remember correctly.
Search and rescue missions were mounted, but they found nothing. No crash site, no radio contact, not a trace of what had happened. So Lauri Thorne was listed as missing in action. It was assumed that the helicopter had crashed in the jungle and there were no survivors. A year later, on October 19, 1966, he was officially declared dead. He was posthumously awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross. Rumors, of course, circulated. People could simply not believe that Lauri Thorne, the legend, had disappeared.
I mean, as bad as it sounds, that isn't the most unrealistic thing. A lot of the time, it seems like it's the most mundane shit that you would not think would kill a legend ends up killing him.
Many hoped that he was still alive somewhere, but they also feared that he might have been captured by the North Vietnamese, or worse, turned over to the Russians.
That'd be
Others
bad.
half-jokingly
Pretty
said
bad.
Maybe he simply walked out of Laos and started a new life again somewhere else. I mean, he'd done it before. In the late 1990s, a task force finally found maybe something. A crash site not far from Thorne's last known position. There they found the remains of a crashed king bee. They located some bone fragments and teeth, but these were too old and too few for reliable DNA identification.
Well, okay, I'm gonna have to go back so I don't fucking forget, but I was thinking about it like Audie Murphy, incredibly decorated fucking legend. He died in a fucking crash, in a plane crash.
They had also lost 2 other king bees in that area. So, could this really be the right crash site? On September 7, 1999, the remains were recovered and brought to the U.S., but in 2003, the files were officially closed. Who knows? Over the years,
That's sad
friends
to think
and
about.
comrades met and remembered Lauri Torni, a.k.a. Lauri Thorne, a man who had excelled at combat literally like no one else, and a soldier of 3 armies.
I'm sure it's happened, but I actually don't. But I don't know positively. People of all 3 armies coming together to talk about him would be an interesting thing to see or hear about, or even just like his time, even between 2 of them. That'd be really interesting to hear about, especially like honestly, I would love to see the Vietnam and the Finnish army, like people who knew him, talk about him. Only because to see how little, like how much he had changed throughout the years. Come on, get hyped, people.
Now, this is quite interesting because a few weeks ago we did Into the Fire with Para, and that's your only song that's about the Vietnam War, like the whole song, right? But obviously, what we just saw
I'll have
today
to check that out.
is about events that happened in Vietnam.
That's true, actually. I hadn't thought of that actually, but yeah.
I'm surprised there's only one song about Vietnam.
Military career and life, I guess.
Is there any special reason for you, or is it just a chance?
Like Vietnam seems like
written more songs about Vietnam, because you've written a lot about World War II, for example.
Oh, good question. No, I don't know actually. There should be. I mean, so many stories we come across from there, but I think it comes down to that we've turned into doing more and more thematic.
Makes sense. But like honestly, this one, what was it? Fuck, I forget this dude's name. Fat Electrician, Hershey. About Hershey. He would have been cool to see if, although I don't think that's that. Do they have a song about chosen what reservoir? That'd be cool. Robert Howard be cool, or what's his name? The real Rambo. I forget. I feel bad. I forget his fucking name. I cannot remember it off the top of my head. That'd be also another cool song if they did.
Yeah.
Roy Benitez. That's his name.
War. So
interesting to write something about something from the Vietnamese, like the Viet Cong perspective, since you have stories about not just about Allied people in World War II. You have songs about
that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I always wanted to do 2 or 3 sides. Like we're doing 3 episodes about Soldier of Three Armies now. It would be so interesting to do the same thing, but musically, to cover events from the same event.
Honestly, 3 different songs all about the same battle, all from like different an overall one side, the other side. That'd be really interesting to see. I wonder if they've done that.
Interesting musically, I guess.
Well,
there's so much tie-ins you can do musically as well.
Yeah.
You could build the music as where you could have the pre-chorus the same from both songs, but modulated. One could be in minor key, one could be in a major key, so they're sort of hinting at each other.
And
the closest I think they've come to that is the Careless Rex album, right? Where they have like the Swedish and the English version. I feel like that's like the closest you get.
Like Static. I'll never forget that. That's the only song that you wrote in a major key. Hey, but I did want to ask you about the actual song, because in the other episodes, we didn't really talk much about the songwriting or how it was constructed or who it was with. Was this something you started with lyrics and then did the music, or you had the song sitting around, or how did this work?
Or was it in tandem?
With the music. It's a bit of a different one, because I remember I was going to Falun, our hometown basically, and about to write some music. And I was planning to write with one of our old-time writing partners, and people kept canceling on me. So I thought, what the hell, I'll go to Falun anyway. And just on a whim, like 2 days before, I got in touch with Tubbe. We decided that let's try and see if we can write a song together,
And maybe they don't know who Tubbe is. Can you tell them?
No, I don't.
So Tubbe is our previous guitar player. He was in the band from 2012 until 2016, if I'm not mistaken. This is in 2014. The thing with songwriters, I mean, I knew he could write music. He'd written stuff before, but you never know if you're compatible as songwriters.
Sure. Makes sense.
Kind of a fun memory for me, this one, because it's on this song we found out that we are compatible as songwriters. I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise. We're almost the same age. We like the same kind of classical 80s hard rock and metal. It actually started with me and Tubbe not knowing where to start. And he started riffing. It's sort of I think we started with kind of the intro riff, and we modified it. It was a little bit too much Judas Priest. I mean, there's still a bit of Judas Priest in there today. A great band, band we both love. Actually, it was a quick process and a really nice one.
Did you write the lyrics yourself, though, or did he help you with the lyrics later? Or was that just you, or you and Per?
That was me alone, I think. Could be me and Per, but I think I wrote this one myself. Actually, not sure. You're going to have to look it up in the credits, anyone who's watching this, if you want to know.
I want to know. I'm looking it up.
And now we've just spent 3 episodes telling the story. This is fun, our first trilogy. Thank you
Sabaton.
very much once again for watching Sabaton History.
Thank you very much, and see you next week.
See you next week.
Information.
All right.
Good, great fucking song. Great song. Let's go credits. Let's go lyrics. Let's see. Does this tell me the music? Broden, lyrics, Broden and Sundstrom. So 2 people. Good to know. Great fucking video though. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I kind of got a little bit of distracted, but I mean this is a long fucking video, very long. Yeah, I hope you guys like it as much as I did. This was super interesting, really interesting. Make sure you guys check out the originals, like, comment, subscribe, and until next time, you guys take care of yourselves. See ya.